Good morning, everyone. It is man coverage. It is Knoxville Nate and I won Mr. James Bonneville, January 9th, 2022. Want to give a shout out real quick to our boy co-host RICO McCoy. Still battling a little bit of illness. I hope you're watching today, RICO. We love you, bro. We hope to have you back soon. And we're going to roll on without you and just be thinking about you today because we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we have the college football finale coming up tomorrow, Monday, January 10th, 2022. The greatest coach of all time, Mr. Nick Saban, versus Georgia. This is a repeat of the SEC championship. We're going to see the same game that we saw a couple of weeks ago. I'm not so sure it's going to go the same. Good morning, Mr. Bonneville. What do you think?
I'm the same way with you. I mean, repeat games are always tough to play. I got to say, I can understand why Vegas is looking at Georgia and giving them 3 points. I think the real testament in this game is going to be Stetson Bennett. I think he is going to have to play a smart game, not turn over the football and play within himself. But I think we're going to look at it on an offensive side. If Georgia's going to win, Bowers has got to be a huge part of that game plan. I mean, you saw what he did against Michigan. He is a nightmare to cover. And that front seven for Georgia, which is remarkable. I mean, anybody can say it. If they can get back to playing the way they did prior to the Alabama game, the SEC championship, I don't see a way to go against Bama, but at the same time, it's hard to go against Nick Saban. I mean, this guy's pulled the rabbit out of his hat so many times, it's not even funny. And Bryce Young is a phenomenal talent. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the key is can Georgia get some offense going? I mean, I just believe that the Bulldogs are going to have to score points in order to win this game. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a shootout, but Stetson Bennett's going to have to play better.
Yeah.
Georgia's going to have to be able to run the football. They're going to have to use Zamir White. They're going to have to use Kenny McIntosh. They're going to have to use Kendall Milton. I mean, that's what people forget about, I think, sometimes is Georgia's got 4 really solid running backs. Zamir White, James Cook, McIntosh, Milton. I didn't mention James Cook there when I was talking about the running game because I actually think he's going to be more important in the passing game. I don't know if you've watched the last few games, but they've used him primarily as a receiver.
Yeah.
And I think that'll continue. I think he's a hard cover for a linebacker. I think he's a hard cover for a safety. And I don't think they're going to put a corner on him. So I think, Cook could be the difference in this game. And if they can run the ball a little bit and get their play action game going, that's where Stetson Bennett is helpful. The problem here is, in my opinion, Stetson, Stetson has done his best when he's been able to bail Georgia out a little bit with his legs. Get outside the pocket. If they're playing man coverage and everyone turns their backs to him, he takes off, picks up a first down with his legs if he has to. I don't know if Stetson's fast enough to outrun any of these Bama guys, and I don't think they're going to give him any free yardage. So he's going to have to throw the ball, in my opinion.
I look back at the last game Georgia played against Michigan, and the way they handled Jabo and Hutchinson, you had to be impressed. And if they could come back and do that again with Will Anderson, I think they're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the focus, right? Will Anderson is the best defensive player in college football, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just, I don't think there's anybody better than him. I think he is the best player in college football, potentially of all. This year alone, he has 53 tackles, 17 and a half sacks, 17.5 sacks, said that already, 31 tackles for loss. This guy lives in the backfield, 2 passes defensed. He's pretty much unblockable. And I think that I think he's going to be pretty much unstoppable. And Robert's asking if anybody's opting out. I have not heard of anyone.
I haven't either.
Out of this game.
I have not either. I mean, I would be kind of surprised if anybody would opt out of this game because, I mean, quite frankly, yeah, you're playing for the national championship. But more importantly, I mean, this is about pride with these guys. I mean, these are teams, two teams in the SEC that, Kirby Smart wants to get over that hump of being a Saban assistant and try to change the dynamics, not only within the SEC, but college football as a whole.
I agree with that, but you have to. I think Robert asked a good question because you have to think about it now. I mean, we all watched the Ole Miss Baylor game, and we all saw the quarterback Matt Corral get injured and have to leave the contest. And I think that's something that all these guys are going to see, and they're all going to have to think about moving forward. I mean, we've seen it over and over again with all these bowl games. Not so much maybe the college football playoff. I think most guys have stuck in there and hung in there for that. But, we saw with the Rose Bowl, I mean, the Buckeyes got off to a slow start, and it was, in my estimation, primarily because, A, Utah's a pretty good football team, and all their guys showed up, and B, a lot of the Buckeyes didn't play. We had, Buckeyes had 5 guys missing on defense. All their receivers opted out. Their left tackle, Petit Ferry, opted out. And we're going to see it more and more. It's as Robert mentioned here, opting out is going to become even bigger, I think, as we move forward.
Agreed.
What you think?
Agreed. I mean, heck, you look at that Penn State-Arkansas game. I mean, the second I heard that 6 guys on that defense, and they were their best guys. I mean, this is a defense that was lights out all year long. They were relying on that defense, and their offense, it was Sean Clifford, Jahan Dotson, and pray to God. And I mean, you lose that many guys. I mean, heck, you lost not only 5 guys, you lost Sawyer early in the game to that targeting call. I mean, it's amazing how they were able to patchwork that together with a defense that really wasn't that strong all year long for Ohio State standards. So,
no, the defense has been a problem. There's no doubt about it. But they've done a lot of things to try and fix it, and we'll get into it. We're going to hit the portal hard today. We're going to talk about quarterbacks first and break that down, and then we're going to discuss some of the other impact players that are hitting the portal. But before we do that, I want to go on and make our predictions. We're going to put you on the spot. Who's winning this game tomorrow?
I'm going to go with Georgia, honestly. I thought it was an aberration where that second quarter just kind of got in their head. And let's be honest, Stetson Bennett's not a quarterback that can bring you from behind. I think Georgia's going to get out in the lead and put pressure on them. I think it's going to be a close game if Georgia wins. Now, there is that possibility if Bama wins, it could be a blowout. And we see a repeat of what happened in Atlanta a few weeks back. But I'm going with Georgia because I believe in that defense, and I think their corners are going to have a much better game with Ringo, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. But if they come to play with John Mechie, you got to go with Georgia.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the Crimson Tide. I mean, let's be honest, they win the national championship every year. I think in these big time games, it comes down to the quarterbacks. I mean, it really does. We've seen it time and time again. When Clemson, got there but couldn't get over the hump, and then Deshaun Watson had a secondary chance, and it was during his best season they won the national championship. Then they got back to the college football playoff with Kelly Bryant. Couldn't get it done because he just wasn't the greatest passer that we've ever seen. And so they went ahead, made the switch the next year when Trevor Lawrence was a freshman. They went on and won the national championship. It just, when you get into games like this and these teams are so close, talent-wise, sometimes it comes down to the quarterback. And I'm taking the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, this guy is he's got ice water in his veins. I mean, we watched him struggle for almost 4 quarters against Auburn. I mean, he had trouble. It was probably not his best game, but when it came down to the line, they finally got the ball back. There was about 1:36, and he just took them down the field, punched it in the end zone, and won the game, and just acted like it was no big deal. And he reminds me a little bit with his mentality of Justin Fields. You never see him get too fired up. You never see him get too low. He's just really even keel guy. And he just, he never gets too high. He never gets too low. And I think that'll serve him well because there may be some plays that don't go his way. As you mentioned, Georgia's got a good defense.
Yeah.
Georgia's going to bring it. They've got tape to watch. Let's talk about this Georgia defense for a second. They got, we just talked about Will Anderson and his 17.5 sacks and his 31 tackles for loss as well. There's no slouches on the Georgia defensive line. You got Quay Walker. This guy's got 57 total tackles. Nakobe Dean is a leader on this team. He's got 10.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, scored a touchdown, 4 passes defense, 2 forced fumbles. I really, really like Nakobe Dean. Nolan Smith is a really good player who makes a lot of plays. Jalen Carter might be one of the best D linemen we've seen in a long time. 8.5 tackles for loss from primarily coming from the defensive tackle position. Robert Beals, pretty good player. I mean, we could go on and on. This Georgia defense is pretty solid.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with. I couldn't agree with you more. I think the heartbeat of that offense though is Nakobe Dean. I think he's a smart kid. He's just a really smart kid, and everybody focuses on Davis and Walker on that front line, but Dean is the guy that really wreaks havoc. You got to look at Keely Ringo and Darian Kendrick. Those guys are really strong players. Especially Ringo. If for those of you that follow high school football, there's a program out in Arizona called Swaharo in Scottsdale that is pumping out kids like nobody's business. They are sending many kids. You look at Denzel Burke up at Ohio State.
Yeah,
he and Ringo were on the same freaking defense.
No way.
There's a kid at UCLA that played D end. It's amazing, the product line. So those out there, if you file high school recruiting, Swaharo is a mammoth program that you should watch.
Wow. I did not know that. And they're both, Ringo's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
And Burke is a true freshman. So
yeah.
Pretty amazing. And Ringo's got some huge numbers this year. He's got 7 passes defensed. He's got an interception. He has almost 30 tackles. He's got a tackle for loss. He's got a sack. This guy is one of the best corners in all of football, in my opinion. And like I said, redshirt freshman. So yeah, pretty impressive. Kirby Smart, obviously, harps on his defense. He leans on it. He played defense himself. He was a defensive coordinator. So we'll see. But, he's going up against the best. Nick Saban is the greatest coach of all time. Anyone who argues with that is a moron.
Yeah.
To win like he's won, we've talked about it on this show at length, at nauseum. If to win like he's won during this time when not only do you have fierce competition in recruiting, but you've got the portal where guys can leave and go wherever they want. It doesn't really matter what the rule changes are or what happens in college football, what coaches he has, what coaches that he loses. It doesn't really matter. He just keeps on winning. And it's just unimaginable to me of how he can continue to win over and over again like he's done.
It'd be interesting to look back and compare some of the dynasties from certain decades. Like you look at Nick Saban during his time at Alabama versus Pete Carroll during his run at USC, or some of the Miami runs when you had, Jimmy Johnson there. It'd be interesting to compare those dynasties because, or even the 2001 Miami team, where they were stacked all over the place. You had guys galore on that defense. Looking back on it, it could be one of the greatest of all time. But I agree with what Robert's saying. Nick Saban's the best coach of all time. And he showed it at LSU. He showed it at Michigan State, taking over for Perlis. I bet you Michigan State's sitting back right now and saying, man, I wish we would have paid that $1 million a year and kept him in East Lansing, because I think the dynamic in the Big Ten would have been much different today.
Yeah, let's talk about this just for a second. We're going to get into the quarterbacks here in just 1 minute, but just to get on to Robert's point here and my point as well, Nick Saban is 2-74, 66-1. 74, 66, and 1 at Alabama. 15 years he's been at Alabama. He has won 183 games and lost 24. 183 and 24. That's an 88% winning percentage. And he's 15-5 in bowl games. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I can't even believe that those numbers are correct. I had to look them up this morning and double check them because I thought that was made up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you look at him too as well, but who has been the one mainstay that probably most people don't know about throughout a majority of his career? And the only time was when this guy was a head coach at Michigan State after Saban left, and that was Bobby Williams. You could definitely tell they have a relationship and they understand what each of them want to do. And it's going to be interesting seeing this move forward. And, you know, what does Alabama look like post Saban when he does decide to hang it up? Because this guy just loves the game of football. He's a teacher at heart.
He is. And, you know, it's a question of how long is he going to keep doing this, because he's going to keep winning if he does. I mean, he's going to keep winning because he is a guy that, you know, has proven longevity. He's proven consistency every year. I think I saw a stat for the last 15 years. His team has been ranked number 1 at least for 2 weeks throughout the season or longer. That's ridiculous. I'm almost over it, to be honest with you. I'd love to see I picked Bama to win, but honestly, I'd love to see anyone else win. I hate Georgia. Everyone knows that. I'm very vocal about that. I don't like the Dogs. I don't like their fans. I don't like their coach. I don't like anything about them, but I almost kind of want them to win just because I'd like to see someone else win a national championship for once. Of course, we'd have to hear about it for the next 50 years if Georgia did win, because they're still talking about Herschel Walker like it was yesterday. So it would be pretty annoying to hear all about that. But you know, we could we could see Bama win another title, and we could see him coach for another 5 years. The guy's 70 years old right now, but he doesn't seem to be slowing down at all.
No, and you just got a passion for it. I mean, you look at guys who long-standing coaches who took forever, guys like Paterno and Penn State, Bowden at Florida State, and Paul Bear. I mean, you know, some of these guys just don't want to retire because, quite frankly, they don't know what to do with themselves. And they have such a passion for the sport and really helping kids as a whole. I mean, if he wants to continue doing it for the next 10 years, God bless him. I hope he does, because it's, you know, when you got a job you enjoy that much, why not?
Yeah, I mean, what else is he going to do? I mean, he's not going to go home and play golf. I mean, he's not going to go home and take up knitting. I mean, this guy is a football coach, and he's going to coach as long as he possibly can. He's not going to retire and start playing bridge and, you know, throwing out bingo cards. I mean, this dude wants to win as many national championships as he possibly can. And everyone's saying like, oh, maybe he'll retire after they win this year. Well, hell, they win every year, and he never even considers retirement. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to stick around. And you know, this quarterback's coming back next year too. We talk about you know, he won the Heisman Trophy. I just said that I think he's going to win you know, the national championship. Well, and then he's going to be back next year, and we're all going to have to contend with him. And you know, these other teams are all trying to keep up. And that's how we segue into our next segment. And that is the transfer portal quarterbacks. I mean, this is the number 1 position. We're talking about, you know, the most important position on the field. Georgia has managed to get to the national championship game without one of the top, you know, quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion. But he's played well enough at times to get it done. He hasn't made huge mistakes. The question is, you know, can any of these other teams get better with one of these guys in the portal to where they can contend with Bama? And obviously, you know where I'm going first. Oklahoma, this kid could have potentially won the Heisman this year if he'd started from the beginning of the year. But obviously, they went with Spencer Rattler. Lincoln Riley did. Spencer Rattler was projected to be the number 1 pick in the 2022 NFL draft. Obviously, things didn't go as well as planned. He wasn't horrible. But, you know, he struggled at times, and eventually he was replaced by Caleb Williams. Lincoln Riley has since left. Spencer Rattler has transferred from Oklahoma to South Carolina. And we got the news, 2-3 days ago, that Williams has hit the portal.
Yeah.
And, he claims that Oklahoma still on the docket. But, James, where the hell is he going?
That's a great question. I think when they hired Jeff Levy to come in, that was to excite him to come back and coach, play again at OU. And it's still possible.
Who was the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, correct?
Correct. And before that at UCF. But I question that right now. And I'm going to probably throw out a prediction. And Grant, I have no inside information. But here's some names to look at. Adrian Martinez goes from Nebraska to Kansas State. Why did he go to Kansas State? Could have been a bunch of reasons, but isn't it ironic that his girlfriend goes to Kansas State? Yeah. Keaton Slovis started at USC, now at Pitt, going across the country. His girlfriend goes to Pitt. Caleb Williams' girlfriend. You know where I'm going with this. Suddenly, their quarterback is going into the draft, and that's the University of North Carolina, and go to Chapel Hill. Call me crazy. And I know everybody and their dog is saying USC or Georgia or whoever it is. I would keep an eye on North Carolina because there is a possibility. I mean, that quarterback room isn't stacked. I mean, the backup was pretty good, but Caleb Williams playing in that system could work and get him, because his whole goal is one thing: be the number one pick in the draft. Plain and simple. If he's truly going for that, I would go head west and go see Lincoln Riley again in USC. But I mean, if he's got the chance to go be with his girlfriend too at North Carolina, I could see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about North Carolina. Obviously, girls make dudes do crazy things.
Correct.
So we've all been a part of that. We've all done crazy stuff for women throughout our lives, which of course we should. Women are amazing, but I'm not so sure he's going to go to UNC. I think, there's been talk about him potentially going to UNC. There's been talk about him going to Georgia. I've heard some rumors that he may go to Ole Miss. Obviously, USC is where a lot of people are projecting him because that's where his coach went to. But we also mentioned that he could, there's been rumors that he might go to UCLA.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel, who we'll talk about in a minute, transferred from Central Florida to UCLA. I thought he had signed paperwork, but apparently he did not, because now he's suddenly announced he's going to Oklahoma. And I thought that was very interesting that it all kind of coincided together, that he abruptly pulled his commitment from UCLA, announced he was going to Oklahoma, and then like a day later, we heard that Caleb Williams was gone. And, is there any possibility that he goes to UCLA in your mind, James?
It could be. I mean, I'm not sure it's a good fit for them. The receiving core is not as strong at UCLA as you see at some of these other programs.
Yeah, it's not.
But Chip Kelly has done great jobs with quarterbacks in the past. Now, does he make them number one picks or high draft picks? I mean, outside of Mariota, with the short time he worked on him before he left to go to the pros, yeah. But is that a comparison you want to make for somebody who wants to have a long career quarterback in the NFL? I mean, I like Marcus Mariota, but I question the transition process for him to that next level, because he was doing so many single reads at Oregon when he was there. So, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting question. I could see UCLA, I mean, especially from an NIL perspective, because there's so many possibilities in Los Angeles.
There's a lot of people that are boosters of UCLA or alumni that have tons of cash.
Yeah.
So we all know today, in this day and age, in 2022, money talks and BS walks. And, it could be a school that we're not even talking about, where somebody says, hey, I'll give you, $5 million to come here. And you sponsor my car dealership or my software company or whatever it is. There's things that can go on that we don't really know about. And there's all this stuff now. And this is what the coaches are really, really, upset about, is it's outside of the coach's control.
Yeah.
The universities are the only ones that can't offer these kids money.
Yeah.
And the universities are the only ones that really can't control the situation. The boosters can, businesses in the city where these schools are can do things. There's tons of different ways where these, different universities can do these, that can have these kids, but can have no control over the situation because the universities can't pay the kids. Everybody else can, but the universities cannot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, I think everybody's thinking the players have more leverage right now. I disagree. I think the coaches have way more leverage than they ever have, because if they threaten to go to another school, players aren't going to colleges anymore. They're going to coaches. And you look at Oklahoma and how many kids have transferred out from there since the move of Lincoln Riley. And you could see how salary escalation could even be impacted more.
Yeah, it's true. There's definitely a lot of movement throughout the entire world of college football. And honestly, right now, there was breaking news about 20 minutes ago. John Rhys Plumlee, the Ole Miss quarterback turned wide receiver, apparently is going to Central Florida. I don't know if you heard this, James, but he has announced that he is going to Central Florida and is potentially going back to play quarterback.
Interesting. Honestly, I had not heard that. I knew he was in the portal, but it's interesting to say that because getting him on the Gus bus, I think he's a good fit for what they're planning on doing in Central Florida. I mean, you look at the success that when they've had it, when Miles On had at Auburn, it's quarterbacks like John Rhys Plumlee that fit that mold, and it'll be interesting to see how those two interact with one another. I never understood the Bo Nix being in that system. I mean, let's be honest, he went there because he was a legacy. Yeah, he was a legacy. He was supposed to. I think his grandfather even played there. Now, I mean, he brings in a guy like Rhys Plumlee. That's a good fit. And really, I mean, the American Conference, or no, are they in the Big 12 yet, or are they still in the American?
I think they're still in the American for one more year, I believe. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be – I mean, it's a good program. I mean, quite frankly, they're going to get gobbled up. I knew there was only a matter of time before they get gobbled up, strictly because of the recruiting possibilities and plus TV rights. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it should be interesting. Caleb Williams obviously is the number one guy right now, and where he goes is going to determine a lot about what happens next year in college football. So we're going to be watching that very closely. When he makes a decision, I don't know. I would think it's going to be sooner rather than later. A lot of these guys have already chosen where they're going. So he's got the ability to look and see, who is where and what is what. Before he makes up his mind. Now, let's talk about the guys that have already made their decisions really quick here. Obviously, we got to talk about Ewers, one of the guys that I do not like and hope that he falls on his face. But let's be honest, he was the number one player in the country coming out. Let's call a spade. Then he took money. All he cared about was money. He left high school, skipped his senior year. People may want to note that his high school team still went to the state championship game without him. So, we'll see how good he was, or maybe just his high school program is really good, which it is. They've turned out guys. South Lake Carroll's turned out guys in the pros. They've put tons of dudes in college. So, I'm not saying he's not good, but, we'll see how good he is really quick here because he has, after 4 months and 3 snaps, pulled out of Ohio State. He's transferred to Texas. Why he wants to go to a school that is 5-7, I have no idea. I guess because they probably paid him the most because all he cares about is money. What do you think about Ewers to Texas, James?
I honestly, I could see it being very potentially beneficial. You look at the style that Ewers plays, there's a lot of similarities between him and the way Pat Mahomes played at Texas Tech. I mean, he finds a way of just getting the ball out on different release points. And there was, I mean, you look at their young receiving core, there's possibilities there, but we've seen it time and time again at Texas where you could have the best of situations and it's just the moment's just too big for him. And it's a wait and see possibility. I want to see what this looks like, not next year in 22, but 23, how Ewers can handle that kind of pressure, because it's different in Texas. It's probably different than everywhere else in the country because their booster base is that intense.
Yeah, I've got to see it before I believe it. I mean, we've heard talk nonstop about how Texas is coming back. We've seen it with Charlie Strong. We've seen it with Tom Herman. We heard it with Sarkisian. Over and over again, I hear every year that they're going to be, back on top, and that they're going to make a run for the Big 12 championship and make a run for the national championship. And then what happens? They get their ass kicked and end up going 6-6, 5-7, whatever. And it doesn't really come to fruition. But if you do have a blue chipper at quarterback and you've got a guy that can sling it all over the field, that can make up for a lot of other issues. And, if this guy's as good as advertised, we'll see. I mean, I'd love to hear what Ryan Day thinks about him. I know that Ryan Day had the opportunity to keep him in Columbus. I mean, he basically went up to him, from what I've heard, and asked, hey, am I going to be the starter next year? I need to get my, part of my NIL deal is that I need to be the starter, and I need to know right now if I'm going to start next year. And what I heard was Ryan Day said, no. You can potentially earn the job, but CJ Stroud is our quarterback, and he looks pretty damn good in the Rose Bowl, throwing for almost 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. So, I think Ryan Day knows quarterbacks, and obviously he recruited him, so he thinks he's good. But, we'll see how good he is, because there's going to be a lot thrust on his shoulders really quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, remember, you still got Hudson Card down in Texas too as well. So, who started some games this year, and it'd be interesting how they balance all that out. One guy I want to bring up that a majority of people, actually 3 guys I want to talk about that a majority of people aren't going to really talk about big in the transfer portal, because the upper echelon is just so big, is Cam Ward going from Incarnate Word to Washington State and still having 3 more years of eligibility. I guarantee you 95 to 99% of the people that watch this show have no clue who Cameron Ward is. But this is the kid who blew up. Last year alone, this past season, 4,600 yards passing, 47 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He's going to Washington State with the new Dickert offense, which we all know at Washington State, they're going to throw the ball. and it's going to be remarkable to see how he transitions. And people got to keep their eye on him, because everything I've heard about this kid, I caught some highlights. The kid's good. The kid's really good. And it's going to be interesting to watching that Pac-12 North develop with a lot of changeover overall in that conference. I mean, Oregon State's getting better. Washington's bringing in Kalen DeBoer, who's a very underrated coach. And he's bringing in Michael Penix Jr., the old Indiana quarterback, with him. And it's going to be interesting that you're going to see a lot more speed, and a lot more excitement to that offense than you've seen the last 2 years under Jimmy Lake and Jim Donnan at OC, where it was they were relying on the defense. It was like a 1980s football team.
And then we also got Bo Nix going to Oregon as well.
Correct.
So, not my favorite quarterback, but a guy that's played a lot of college football and has had some success. The question is, what is Oregon going to look like next year, with this new coaching staff? Obviously, Cristobal, everybody thought Mario Cristobal was going to be there forever. I thought he did such a great job, gave him all this praise, and then he bolted after 1 season. So they're going to have to start all over.
Yeah. I another guy to think about is Connor Bazelak. He's the old Missouri coach or quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Who's now going to Indiana.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's a great fit. I mean, Tom Allen, he coaches at Indiana, for Christ's sake. That's a tough place to play, because no matter how hard you try, you're always going to be second fiddle to Notre Dame in that state. And it's hard to recruit when you got Ohio State to the east of you. You got Michigan to the north of you, and they go into Indiana and recruit against you pretty fiercely. And Tom Allen's done a great job. When the Florida State job came open, I honestly thought Tom Allen should have gotten that job, because he was a high school coach down there. He recruits incredibly well down there. Indiana keeping him is just a testament to the dedication that university wants in football. They don't want to be just a basketball school anymore. They really want to win. And I think this year was an aberration. I think you're going to see Tom Allen be the next Fitzgerald, like at Northwestern, where they're going to come back and you're going to have to fight to beat them. And it's very difficult.
Yeah, no, I love Coach Allen. He's a guy that players will run through brick walls for. And let's be honest, what he did for 2 years there, honestly, was amazing. This year they struggled. It was a struggle all year. Penix, just hasn't been healthy. When Penix has been healthy, he's been good. And Penix is from Florida also, by the way. We may want to put that out there. And when he's healthy, he's played really good. It's just been injuries that have struggled, caused him to struggle. And,
turnovers.
And turnovers, too. When he has played, he's thrown it to the other team. But I just don't think he's been 100% right since he got hurt. And they need a quarterback. And this kid that you just mentioned who's coming from Missouri played some good ball last year.
Yeah.
I mean, Missouri didn't have a ton around him. And, Connor Bazelak played pretty good. And he's a guy that was a 4-star recruit, has a good arm. And I think he can make a big difference because when Indiana had a quarterback that was making throws, they were causing problems in the Big Ten.
Oh, completely. I mean, the success of that team was, the difference of them being a bowl team and not being a bowl team was the sheer amount of turnovers they had. I mean, the defense was still there. The problem was they were dealing with a short field all the time. And you cut down those turnovers, they're making noise again. I mean, this is not the Indiana of old where maybe once a decade they make a bowl game. They're going to be a player in the East moving ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about another guy with you for a second. This is a guy who is another dude like Bo Nix who had a dad that was a good quarterback. This is a guy who played in 6 games as a freshman at LSU. Last year he played in 12 games. And I'm talking about, obviously, Max Johnson. He threw for about 2,800 yards, 27 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Not bad numbers at all at LSU this year. The problem was it didn't really lead to victories. And so, that's my question is I'm kind of torn between how great this guy is because they had talent around him. I mean, Keyshawn Butte is one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen. And, ranks right up there with me, in my opinion, with Chase and with all those other guys, Justin Jefferson, all those great wide receivers at LSU. And, they struggled winning games. Obviously, their coach is fired less than 2 years after winning a national championship. And now Johnson bolts. He's headed to Texas A&M. Is this a guy that can get Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies into the college football playoff?
Honestly, I thought he was a good quarterback. When he originally announced he was going to transfer, it did not shock me. But as soon as he got in the portal, I'm like, it's only a matter of time before he goes back to his dad's alma mater. What people don't know is his kid brother, Jake Johnson, who's a very highly rated tight end, is kind of a package deal in this whole thing. And when I heard he was going to A&M, it made complete sense. I mean, former Florida State coach, there's a relationship in the family from recruiting in the past. I mean, a lot of it really added up together. And quite frankly, the way you look at Jimbo's pro-style offense, I think Max really fits more to that system than he would have Florida State. I mean, you look at him and the old schoolers that are on here that remember his dad when he played at Florida State and for the Vikings and for Tampa Bay. They're literally clones of one another. They play very similar to one another. And I think long-term benefit, I think Max Johnson going to A&M is a great fit.
I think he's an upgrade at the position. For them. I really do. I know that they had guys last year. They played 2-3 quarterbacks, including Zach Calzada, who was, up and down. Calzada is now going to Auburn and is slated to take over the starting role with Bo Nix's departure. But I wasn't really impressed with Calzada. I mean, let's be honest, Texas A&M, they were led by their defense last year. Their defense at times, was pretty much unstoppable. And there was several games that I watched where if they could just score a point, 3 points, they could have won. And so this quarterback position is going to be very important for them moving forward. And I'm just hoping this is the right guy, because if they want to take that next step and contend for, the SEC West and contend for the national championship, which if you can contend for the SEC West, you can contend for the national championship. They're going to need somebody that can put points on the board and throw the ball around.
Well, and the one thing to remember is Calzada wasn't the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. And I'm trying to remember, they started a true freshman who got hurt during the Colorado game where, they struggled against Colorado. And let's be honest, Colorado was not a strong program. Minnesota went in there the next week, held them under 100 yards total offense in Boulder, and beat them 30-0.
Haynes King was the
that's
guy.
it. Haynes King. I kept saying Hudson Carr, and I'm like, I know that's a Texas quarterback. It's they never really felt like they clicked on offense.
Yeah.
And Calzada, played a hell of a game against Alabama, but he was up and down all year long. I think him getting a new start at his new place is going to help him out a lot going to Auburn.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes a change of scenery can be very, very helpful. And
absolutely,
we'll see. There's going to be less pressure on him at Auburn, in my opinion. Auburn, obviously, they want to win, and there's pressure to win there. But I think he'll be able to kind of ease more into the starting quarterback role there, with the Tigers. And I'm interested to see what Max Johnson does. Obviously, they got him, they got his brother. And the LSU quarterback position is something I want to talk about really fast. They had Johnson, they had Brennan, they had a couple of guys, the gentleman that transferred to Auburn the year before, who played pretty well at times. So they've had three pretty good quarterbacks. Well, right now, everybody was in the portal, when Coach Orgeron got fired and got sent out of town, everybody was in the portal. Well, I think Miles Brennan sat back and kind of waited a little bit too long. And after Johnson left and went to A&M, Brennan's coming back. What do you think about him?
That's going to be interesting to think about now. You bring in Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly always wants to strengthen the line of scrimmage because that's just who he is, dating back to his Grand Valley days. I could see Brennan, but what about a guy like Garrett Nussmeier too, as well? That guy comes from a quarterback family. It's something that LSU really has to strengthen. Outside of the Joe Burrow 2019 year, you got to go back probably to Jamarcus Russell to see stable quarterback play at LSU. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. You mean before Burrow?
Before Burrow. Heck, you look at Burrow's first year at LSU. It looked like Zach Meckenberger and Danny Etling, a former Purdue guy. Go down the list. It's just like they always looked like quarterback was always the thing that was holding them back. They had the receivers. They had the running back. They had the offense and defensive line. This quarterback play was just so inconsistent. And a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, who comes from that quarterback kind of family, I could potentially see it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And it's a good thought to think about. We'll see if LSU's guy can be any good. We've got our guest with us right now. I'm going to bring him on. Get ready, because we've got the legend, Mr. Travis Stevens, with us right now. How you doing, Trav?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How y'all doing? Good morning. Good Sunday morning, man. How y'all
yes,
doing?
Sir. It's good to see you. How you been, Travis?
Yeah, I've been doing good. Blessed. Very blessed, bro. Very, very blessed.
Right. Awesome, man. We appreciate you joining us. We were just talking a little college football here, something you know a lot about. We were breaking down.
A little bit, not a lot, just a little bit.
Hell yeah, you do, man. The all-time great. We were talking about the SEC dominating once again. We got the big game tomorrow. Let us know who you liking, man. You like Georgia? You like Bama? Who you think's going to win? And what do you think about this season as a whole?
I don't know. The season has been good, man. As far as with those two teams, they really dominated. I've been pulling for Georgia for a while. I don't know. It's Alabama is just hard. I guess they got the number, but I'm really pulling for Georgia. I won't bet on the game, but Georgia, I think it's their year. They just got to come to play, man. It's going to be a tough one though, and it's going to be a good matchup, I believe.
Hey, Travis, is it hard to cheer for Georgia and Bama since they're old rivals of yours? I mean, it's kind of like you kind of want like a tie to happen in the end, because no matter what, you're kind of depressed that one of your rivals is going to win the national championship. So it's like a no-win situation. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't. As long as they're not playing Tennessee, if they play in Tennessee, I'm going for Tennessee. Period. Anybody that plays Tennessee, but then I like Tennessee doesn't have a fight in this match, so I don't mind if one or the other lose. Win or lose or whatever. But as far as I know, people always talk about Alabama. I know they've been great for the last 10 or so years or whatever. But I always told people, I said, I don't have anything against Alabama because I've never lost to Alabama during my playing days. So why would I be mad? Why would we be mad at them? But like I said, we're not in it. So somebody has to win. During the time I played, I've developed good relationship with the players of those other teams. So it's not like I've never been mad at nobody that plays for any of of our rivals or whatever. So yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and Travis, I got to ask you a question. I mean, obviously, back when you played for Tennessee, they were rolling. Tennessee was dominating. They finished in the top 10, top 5 year after year. And, that's a hard thing to do. And now we're seeing Coach Saban and Bama do it year in, year out. And I just want to get your thoughts on Coach Saban and the dynasty that he's built down there. It's pretty impressive, right?
Of course, he's done a great job, man. He's built a system that has worked, So that's a good thing about it, Even though he had coaches coming in and out and stuff, he's still a system. As long as he's in place, whatever he's doing is working, And a lot of his coaches have left on and had great success, like the coach he's playing against now. And but it seems like most of them can't beat him. So that system, that pedigree, whatever he's doing, man, it's crazy. Because we played against him, and I just I realized some years ago, but it was Nick Saban. Of course, we lost to against when he was playing with LSU. I coached him in LSU, so and he won a championship there. So whatever he's doing is working down there in Alabama. So like I said, just I hope we can get on some kind of rhythm like that at Tennessee. And I think we're in the right direction right now. So like I said, we just just got to hope for the best right now. So, but Saban is doing a great job.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, James, I'll let you jump in here in a second. I just want to piggyback off that and talk about Tennessee and Coach Heupel. I thought he did a tremendous job this year, considering, beginning of the year, depth was an issue. Only 70 scholarship players, a lot of attrition with guys starting all over, the country. Henry To'oTo'o starts for Bama, for example, and a lot of other guys that left. He was able to win 7 games and get us to a bowl game. And I've got to say, I was pretty impressed with that. I just want to get your thoughts on Heupel's first year and where you think Tennessee's headed.
Well, like Heupel, I like what he's doing. I like, having, Tennessee, we haven't seen an offense like that. Even when I played, we were just a, ground and pound type of team. In this new DNA, just like it's a pass heavy, system with, everybody. So I'm enjoying, we like, as an offensive guy, I like touchdowns. I like, people scoring, and then, of course I do like defense, but I believe the direction he's taking this team in with the players that he's, that he already acquired, and, with everybody leaving, I think he's done a wonderful job. And I think we're going to build on that by, we've got, these high school players, these good players out of high school will see that and they'll be like, well, because everybody can't go to one team. Everybody can go to Alabama. Everybody can go to Georgia. Everybody can go to some of these other powerhouse SEC teams. So I think that does help us in a way to see, as I know as a high school player, and if I see, as a receiver or anything, or quarterback, I'd be like, well, Tennessee is on a rise right now. And so I would definitely, I definitely think that, be an open eye for any player that's coming out of high school and seeing what Tennessee's doing.
Hey, Travis, this is James Bonneville here. I look back at your career when you came in as as a freshman, you had Lewis and Bryson and Henry and yourself in your running back room. And I mean, you guys were grinding it out. I mean, it's kind of legendary thinking back all the depth you guys had in that room. But you look at the culture today is so different with the transfer portal. What are your thoughts on the transfer portal? Because it seems like there's a lot of guys who they get right there to the end, and if they're not getting the snaps, they're going to try to go to somewhere else. Where, I mean, you guys are always like probably, I'm not sure we're friends or not, but competing with one another and being in that same room where it's kind of legendary, kind of thinking back. I mean, what are your thoughts about the transfer portal today moving ahead?
As far as with players, I think it's a good thing. It is a good thing because if they're not getting the opportunity to play, if the team is not going to use you, yes, I believe you should go somewhere where you're needed, where we're going to be used. Because with me, I could have almost wasted a year if I wouldn't have went to Coach Fulmer after my sophomore year and asked him for a red shirt. I would have never had that senior year.
Yeah.
So I know coaches don't like it because they want all they want everything. They want all the good players they can have, but. At the same time, you got to look at your future, the situation you want to play. Of course, you want to play, and I don't mind playing with great players. Like I said, as long if I'm not playing, it's the person in front of me is going to be great. That's what I always thought because I know where I'm going to be when I get out there. You know what I'm saying? So, and I didn't mind that. So, but then again, you got to look at I had to look at my situation and make sure that I wasn't going to waste a college career in which if I wouldn't have redshirted after my sophomore year, and usually people, they redshirt their first year, I asked for this red shirt so I can have all I said to coach, I just need, 1 year. And I was, telling everybody I just need 1 year, so that worked out. So I believe, with the transfer portal right now, it's good for players, as long as they use it the right way and they know what they're doing. They see the situation they're in and a possible situation that they can be used in if they have to go to another college.
Yeah. No, I think that's spot on, Trav, and I agree with you 100%. I think it's something that needs to be there, and there needs to be the ability to let guys go because these coaches jump around with no restrictions.
Yeah, exactly.
They can sell you a bill of goods and tell you all this stuff and get you to come to their school, and then you arrive on campus and they're outie because somebody's offering them more money, like Brian Kelly. So I think that's important. But we had Reggie Brooks on the show a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how he wasn't getting to play at all when he got to Notre Dame. Jerome Bettis was there, and Raheem Ismail, and Ricky Waters. His brother, Tony Brooks, and he was 6th or 7th on the depth chart, and he was considering transferring, but he said that he would never change it because he stayed there. He had an amazing season, similar, not as good as yours, but close to as good as yours at Notre Dame, and he still works there. So sometimes waiting it out and waiting for your turn is good, right, Trav?
Yeah. I mean, like I wouldn't, like you said, I that's what I did. I waited, as long as, like I said, I wait, I sit out. I don't mind, being patient. But like I said, as long as you're going to be useful, you want to be some kind of use of Tennessee. I would have been no use if I wouldn't have played. If I would have just continued to to play out and not redshirt. So yes, it just depends on each player situation that works out best for them, man. So that's all that is.
Hey, from a culture standpoint, like I look back at your high school career with Coach Burke at Northeast, Coach Fulmer at Tennessee, and also your position coach and Coach McCorvey. We all see the frontward-facing side of it. What was the culture behind the scenes and how that helped shape you as a player? Because I think that's a lot of things that people don't talk about. They just see the product in the field and they see the interviews. What was the culture like off field and how that helped motivate you be the best player you could be?
First, they treat you like men first, and they were kind of like, those coaches are like father figures, and like Woody McCorvey, he always, man, I never heard any, you meet somebody that always have a story about everything, Coach McCorvey is one of those guys, so, Coach, it was Coach Butler and then Burke in high school, but Butler was one of those coaches, man, that would get you ready for any game. You can be playing like a 10-year-old, a Pee Wee team, and, you're in high school, and he'll have you really, he psychologically have you thinking that you can lose to this team. So, but he'll have you fucking ready to go for any team that you face. And like I said, Randy was my first position coach when I got to UT. Good guy. He has stories as well. So each is, for each coaches, they have their different way of, getting you motivated or whatever. But, as players, we want to play. So sometimes it don't take anything. We just want to win. I'm a winner. I hate losing. So that's just, it's part of it.
Yeah, well, they didn't lose very often when you were out there, Trav.
Absolutely.
I just want to hear a little bit about, that 2001 season. What was the mentality, going into that year? Because obviously you were the guy, you were going to get the carries, but, there was guys that came before you. There was guys that were going to come after you. But what was your mentality going into that season that led to you having such an amazing record-setting season?
Just to make sure I was ready. I knew it was going knew it was my turn. So I had to make sure like before I was like, let me have my season, so, but anyway, I just had to make sure I was ready. In the off season, I did extra, you have to do extra when it's your turn. So you got to be over ready just about. So I was training, outside the team and then with the team, and I was just doing extra stuff. This guy Vince Martin, I know he went to University of Tennessee. He was a track guy, and he also worked for the university after he left. But he was a workaholic, like as far as training, a trainerholic, whatever you want to call it. Still to this day. But he had this. We call it like the underground workout system. That we'll get up 5 a.m, meet at Tom Black track, and we'll do drills and all kind of hard stuff. We did not know one workout. We did a mile of lunges. Ever try a mile of lunges? Doing lunges for a mile, back and forth, and then try to, like, I couldn't even walk the next couple of days, just trying to get up and everything. So, I mean, that's some of the stuff that we went through as far as getting ready. And then I was, like I said, I was doing things with the football team, so I had a real tough off season to prepare for, that 2001 season. So I was definitely ready, and I wasn't going to let, that opportunity pass me.
Hey, take us back to that 2001 Florida game. I mean, not only were you hungry as ever for that senior season, I could only imagine you were probably chomping at the bit so much. But that Florida game, I mean, quite frankly, it was magical. I mean, what was going through your mind during that time period? I mean, Grant, we're talking 20 years ago now, but I mean, not only that game and doing what you did, but doing it against Spurrier had to have been even more sweet during that process. So take us there.
Yeah, well, I just remember coming in, my freshman year in '97. That was our first time. That was Peyton's senior year, going down there and just witnessing the atmosphere, seeing, of course, that was throughout that whole year, that was the one game that I just know the press, everybody else, was talking about. So it was just, even coming from high school, coming into college to UT, and they always talk about the Florida game. You know what I'm saying? So this is like the biggest game of the year. It wasn't even Alabama. Alabama was traditionally big, but Florida, at the present time was the biggest game. So a lot of media attention was put on that, and the coaches, players. I mean, it was just it was different. It was different. It was a big, it was a big stage. So being a freshman, not playing at that time of that game, and just I don't know if you've been to Florida and heard, that's probably the loudest stadium in history of college football. I don't know the last stadium I've been in, but as far as that atmosphere, I loved it, and I was like, I needed that. I wouldn't, if I ever had the opportunity, I was going to make sure I took advantage of it, being down here in Florida against all odds when you're not, you're not supposed to win. So coming in my senior season, with that year was going to be, of course, it was going to be in Florida, but it was 9/11. Where and I ain't gonna say I'm glad that 9/11 happened, but it was we would have been like I think we had like 3 or 4 guys hurt. John Henderson hurt. We had a lot of guys who weren't healthy, so it was pushed back toward the end of that year. And I just knew going in that game, I just wanted to be prepared and ready and focused. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people think that you have to have, like, I didn't expect to have a big game, but I just expected to come in there and being focused and doing whatever I needed to do to help the team win. of course, my focus is on, y'all know, I guess it was on 110 that day. And, my offensive line, man, we had a great offensive line. A lot of those guys went to the pros as well. But it was just a game where, one of those games that I got in the zone. I seen everything, holes opening up, and I was just very in tune and focusing, just winning the game. A lot of guys will make a big play and they'll get up and act like the game is over. Playing Florida, Florida that year was, if you heard Spurrier said, that's probably one of his best Florida teams. And them guys, you can't just, have a big play and expect it to be like the game's over, score a touchdown, and the game is over. The game is over. The game is not over until it's 0-0. The clock is 0-0. But like I said, it was just one of those games where I was in the zone and I felt good. And like I said, I did not want to lose. I did not want to lose. And and if y'all remember that before the game, game day, they counted us out. They said, we had no chance of winning. And we're a number 4 team in the nation. I was like, man, it was a total disrespect. So that was a little bit of extra motivation in getting all of us prepared. You know what I'm saying? So that was, like I said, it was a special game, and I'm glad, we're being victorious. And of course, it'll be always something that I will remember.
Yeah. Well, Travis, I will always remember it too, buddy. I mean, I just love the way that you played and the way that you got after it, and the way that you were a complete back, catching balls, running balls, blocking when you had to. I will never forget it. And you will always be one of my favorite players. And we got a guest here that asked a question. This is Robert. He said, Travis, I appreciate the way you played. What are you up to these days?
Yeah, I'm just working, taking care of the family, man. Like I said, I'm just, and trying to stay in shape, man. I can look like it, but I don't feel like I can play ball. But yeah, I'm just like taking two bad little girls, man. I gotta, look out for it, and an old lady. So yeah, it's just I'm maintaining, man, and playing fantasy football.
Nice. I love it. Well, Trav, man, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for coming on our show. We got a lot of Tennessee fans that watch, and they I know they love this, and I loved it. So thank you so much for giving us a few minutes and joining us on a Sunday.
Thanks for having me, man. Peace out and go Balls, baby.
Hey.
All right, man. Go Balls. Be
thank
good.
you. Have a great day.
All right. That was the legend, Travis Stevens, 1,464 yards. 2001. I just remember, like you mentioned when he was a freshman, Travis Henry, Jamal Lewis, Sean Bryson, there was so many good running backs, and there was good running backs before Travis got here. We had Tennessee had Charlie Gardner. They had what was the other guy that I'm thinking? Tony Thompson. Go down the list, and it was running back for a little while. I mean, it really was. And, John Littleman Stewart, Aaron Hayden, those were teams that just, really relied on running the football. And they had good quarterbacks. And when Peyton came, they threw it a little bit more. But after Peyton left, they went back to the run. And, everybody said Travis was too small to be the full-time workhorse running back. And, Jay Graham was the guy that I forgot.
That's right.
Jay Graham. But, Travis wasn't having any of that. And he worked, like he said, he worked his butt off. And when he got his opportunity, he made the most of it. And he is still, the all-time leading rusher for a single season at UT and first-team All-American. And as you just saw there, a great guy.
Absolutely. He's one of those guys that when adversity hit, he ran into the fire, A lot of people in these day and age may run away from it. He's one of those guys that's going to run to it and take it on head on. And you got to respect what he did. I mean, not everybody could handle a room like that where, you come in kind of ballyhooed and your kind of chest is puffing out. And you come in a room where every single one of the guys we just mentioned played in the NFL. Every single one. And look what he did. That 2001 season, I got to imagine at the end of the year, he had to feel proud of what he accomplished. And it's great to have him on here telling his story today.
Yeah, it was cool to get to talk to him. He's a great guy, and he's talking about he's still working out and stuff. I saw him and Travis Henry both, and they look like they could both still play, man. They're jacked, ripped up. And I tell you what, if you got them out there and hand them the ball a few times, they could still get some yards.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to call it for the day. But what a great show, man. We previewed the college football playoff, which is tomorrow. I hope everybody enjoys the game. I hope that potentially somebody besides Bama and Nick Saban can win a national championship, even if it has to be Georgia. And we're going to talk a lot more about the portal and the guys that are going from team to team as this offseason rolls along, because I think it's really important now. Some of these teams are able to add depth and also add, key contributors at key positions. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. James, I appreciate you joining us today, and I look forward to speaking with you in the weeks to come.
Absolutely. We got to get the starter back in RICO McCoy too. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, man. I hope he's feeling better. I hope that he gets well, and I hope he can come join us and be a part of the show, because we need him. And we're looking for him to come back and join me and you.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. Have a great rest of the weekend, and I will talk to you real soon. Okay.
Hey, talk to you all. Thanks for all joining us.
All right, buddy. Have a great day. And thank you to all our watchers and listeners and everybody that tuned in. We appreciate you guys, and you make the show what it is, joining us every week. And Risotto, I love you, bro. Phi Kappa Psi, live or die. Keep it up, bro. Have a good one. And everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend.